Is May 7th a day that we will see a true reset? Now, that's not hyperbolic. That's the truth. Something that we've been pushing against when it comes to global initiatives in the Biden administration. Now, all of a sudden, the Trump administration, the cabinet is pushing something for May 7th. We're going to talk about what that May 7th push is. This is mind-blowing. And to be honest with you, I think it's going to cause a rift in the conservative movement. Also, we're going to discuss our economy, gold. Gold has actually been skyrocketing for way more than just when Trump was the president. Now, right now, economists, and especially Democrat economists, will tell you that, well, gold skyrocketed like crazy since Trump has been president. It shows that the economy is faltering. Gold has been skyrocketing under both administrations. I think Peter Schiff said it best when he said, we've put ourselves in a bad spot. And we're going to talk about his quote that he said, and I think it speaks volumes. Now, he is not a Trump supporter, and to be honest with you, he's really not a Democrat supporter too. He's been pretty independent. But he had a good comment, I thought, that should make us wake up. And to be honest with you, it's stuff that your grandmother would have probably told you. The sad thing is you didn't listen to her. So we better start listening to Peter Schiff on this, and we'll discuss what he just said. And also, we're going to dive a little deeper on the importance of making things back at home. You've heard pushes, well, I mean, what's so wrong with having a better trade situation? Well, we talked about it yesterday. Pharmaceuticals, we have a 2-week supply. What happens if China cuts that off? How crazy will it be here? Not only that, there's a new report that shows that there's some malware and some cyber information that's been placed on devices coming from China that now is going into government hands. It's amazing when we depend on other people to provide for us, that means they may not be as honest as we want them to be. We're going to discuss that and a few more stories that will blow your mind today. We're going to talk about some crazy quotes and some news dealing again with May 7th that I believe could start a global reset. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. Also remember, we do a giveaway each and every month, so if you're subscribed, you're entered into that giveaway. If you comment, you're entered into that giveaway, and if you give us a thumbs up, that goes along with saying that you enjoyed this video. We also have 2 other channels, Life with Colby Mac and The Max Life. That's my vlog channel and my wife's channel, so please go check those out. We do giveaways on those channels as well. Now, let's dive into the stories. May 7th, why do I say that it truly could be a great reset and a true change in the way America does business? Now, for the longest, and I told you this, I talked about this a little yesterday, we've pushed so hard against global agendas like like the WEF, like things like the digital ID you've heard and things like that. We've pushed against that. But I said we need to push against that, but at the same time, when we swing the pendulum back, we need to make sure that pendulum is not swinging to more chaos and more control just on the other side. Now, as a true Christian conservative, I mean, I'm as staunch conservative, probably as conservative can get. However, we have to be very conscientious and careful of what some of the things that just come out from this administration. Are they swinging too crazy to where they're wanting power just like everyone else? It's just an America way. Now, what do I mean by that? We're going to talk about what DHS Secretary just said. Listen to this quote. This is from Kristi Noem, who personally I think is just really fake. I'm sorry. I think all the shots that she's done with holding the guns and holding the hat with the Department of Homeland Security on it, standing in front of the prisons, I think it's just all so fake. I'm sorry. And I'm, as a conservative, saying that. But listen to what she said. This is what is major about May 7th. Starting May 7th, you will need a real ID to fly. Real ID makes identification harder for forging, thwarting criminals, and terrorists. If you plan to fly, make sure that you have a real ID so you won't be denied for your flight or face travel delays. Now, let's talk about this for a second. This is where we go back to 2020. This is where we go back to, we're willing to give up our freedom for security. She just said, and this is a big announcement, why no one's talking about it more than this. On May 7th, you will have to have another form of identification that the government gives you to be able to fly. Now, I'm not a flyer. I don't actually fly. I don't like flying. I don't want to put my hands in other people's responsibility, especially if I don't know those pilots or anything like that. So I digress. I don't like flying. But flying is a big part of the world. Now, we've pushed so hard against digital ID. We pushed so hard against WorldCoin. We've pushed so hard against all this form of getting on this one world version of metrics. However, now America is wanting a different kind of metrics from us, and we should be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. If we're wanting freedom and liberty, yes, we shouldn't want to give our information to China or to the WEF. If we want freedom and liberty, we shouldn't want to give it more information to the government more than they already have. I mean, we have a social security number, we have a driver's license, we have all this information they have of us, and now they're wanting a real ID. Now, what they're telling you is for your safety and security, because ultimately it helps you travel with ease, and it helps us throw it out the bag, people. Well, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but how many times have we heard we're willing to give up our freedom for more safety and security? Has that ever worked out in our favor in America? I just want to ask you, I mean, just think about it. Has that ever worked out in your favor in America where you gave up something, some of your freedoms, so for the greater good? I think of taxes. You gave up money for the greater good of infrastructure, which has been a lie. You've given up your rights to bear arms to keep safer cities. That's kind of the same push. You've given up your right to have cash because it's easier and less chances of someone stealing your money if you have it on a digital wallet or if you have it just in a bank or on a card. So we got to go digitized. It's so much better to do fractional lending and safety in the bank, so that way all the money's not in the bank just in case something happens. Someone can't break into the bank and steal all your money. We've heard the case where we're giving up freedom for safety and security, and that's going to benefit us. And not once have that actually benefited us. So I've not heard Trump talk about this, but this is from his cabinet position in Department of Homeland Security, that on May 7th, she is going to make everyone in America get a real ID, especially if you're wanting to fly. So that means if you're wanting to transport across state lines or across the nations or across the countries, you will have to have another form of identification. So what's the difference in a passport, driver's license, and social security number? It's another form of government intervention. Listen to what Sarah Palin said. Again, I'm not the biggest Sarah Palin fan, but I want you to listen to what she said. So we're going to get another form of identification. Evidently, existing ID requirements for American citizens just are not adequate enough. American citizens are now forced to have a big brother forcing them to get another form of right, quote-unquote, right to travel. Other administrations delayed this because of the burdensome of getting real IDs and trying to explain this to the people. However, now the Trump administration is wanting to implement this. Why is this a good policy? Especially for people who want conservative freedom and less government intervention. It's a good thought. May 7th, are we seeing another form of a reset to where then we're having to give up our freedoms and rights to have another form of safety and security? Is that really the answer? And is that really something that the Trump administration should be pushing? I love what Sarah Palin said right there. She said, for the longest we've pushed against this on the international side. And when Biden came out with the 14067 executive order, years ago when we were talking about digital ID and having some kind of form of a currency that is based on your identification, we pushed against it. Well, now Real ID is basically becoming the digital ID of America. It's absolutely crazy. And I'm scared to say that I'm scared more people are going to get behind it because they're going to push for safety and security, and what they're doing is taking away from their own freedom. Now let's go to another story about gold. Now I've told you forever I think that you should have been buying gold years ago. I bought it when it was around the $16 to $17 to $1,800 an ounce, and then it kind of went up from there. I bought it some at 22, 21, and so now it's at 32. That means the value is just skyrocketing. That's excellent. Now, some people say it's not going to keep on going up. Well, it keeps hitting these all-time highs just about every week. I want to read this. This came from a gold economist. It said, gold does not just parabolically go up. It doesn't just stay up. It doesn't just climb when everything is well in the economy. It actually means that there's a problem. Now, this is not just going up in the Trump administration. He said this is going up for the last few months in both administrations. He said what it's proving is there is a problem with the market. There's a problem with spending. There's a problem in our government. Well, we've known that for a long time. We've talked about that. We can't keep borrowing money and spending money that we don't have and just keep digging a bigger hole. What gold is showing is our dollar's struggling and our financial house is not in order. We talked about this last year, that no matter what Trump did, we may not can pull this economy out. And I think we're finally seeing signs of a major correction coming. All behest of the tariffs, because we'll talk about another reason why I believe the tariffs are important. But I believe we're going to see a correction because of the spending habits that we have made in America. What did I tell you about Trump and Elon? No matter what Trump and Elon does, if Congress does not quit spending money, it's all for naught. It's embarrassing, yeah, and we hear that they're spending money and they're blowing money, but if Congress keeps spending the money, it will not matter what policies that Trump puts in, because Congress has the purse. Congress is the one that allocates the money. Congress is the one who spends the money and gives the money away. So if we don't change the habits of Congress, who cares who's president? So I think what gold is showing is we've been in a kerfuffle and a bad problem for a long, long time. Listen to what Peter Schiff just said. For decades as Americans, we lived beyond our means by consuming far more than we produce. To make that possible, we outsourced our manufacturing, sold off assets, and went into heavy debt. Foreign countries like China produced what we didn't, provided our assets, we bought, and then they loaned us money to keep on buying. The result was that we got lower consumer prices, lower interest rates, and higher stock prices. Trump describes this as foreigners ripping us off, and he wants to put a stop to it immediately. Fine, but understand what that means. We can no longer live beyond our means. We have to stop spending and start saving. We have to roll up our sleeves, go back to work. Consumer prices and interest rates will soar. The stock market will collapse. Welcome to liberation. Now, he's been a big push against this Liberation Day. And what he's saying is, I don't think that he's saying that it's wrong, but I think he's saying, I don't think the American people understand what that means. He's saying, we for so long, it's just like this. I mean, I say these kind of cliches because I want you to understand them. And I say these examples and analogies to benefit us. If we had a great job and our credit was great, we bought the big house in the neighborhood, we bought 2 nice new cars, we were getting bonuses and raises because our businesses were growing, and we had credit card limits like crazy, our debt interest was down because the economy looked like it was going great, the stock market was great, so it looked like our retirements are going good, it looks like all our credit is getting paid per month, and we're not worried about what the debt is because we can service it because we have this great income. And this great income has provided this great big house in the neighborhood that, yeah, it might be a little too much house, but hey, it looks good. And we bought what we want. We go on vacation because we have a low interest rate. So then, like, our credit cards have good limits. All that is great as long as the job stays there, as long as the economy does great. But in that same synopsis, when we're in debt up to our eyeballs, but it doesn't really matter because the money's still flowing in, everything's still going just like it planned, and we can still afford the monthly note. What happens if all of a sudden that house of cards gets a brick thrown on it? And what do I mean by that? What if all of a sudden the father, who has bought all the stuff, who lives in the house, who made sure that he took care of the monthly bills, I mean, he was covering them, what if all of a sudden he lost his job? What if all of a sudden that job had to relocate? That job left. The house is no longer affordable. They foreclose on it. Your credit cards are maxed out because now you're trying to live off of them, but now you have so much debt so you're not even able to pay the minimums. The 2 cars got repossessed because you can't afford the notes anymore. And now you're sitting there with nothing. Now you're saying, I'm going to change it. I'm going to do better. I have to reconsolidate debt. I've got to change my ways. That sounds great. And yes, that means this person's probably on a good path to get out of debt. But he has got a long road ahead of him because now his habits have been spending money that he didn't have. His habits were living in a house that he couldn't afford. His habits were buying cars that he couldn't afford. And now he has nothing. Well, that's where America's at. And that's what Peter Schiff was saying. Look, because Peter Schiff's an asset manager. I mean, he loves gold, but he's in the markets too. What he's saying is, if you want this, and you want Liberation Day, and you want to change everything back, and you want America to be revitalized, for that to take place, you're going to have to hurt. And I think he's right. And I've told you that. I believe we're going to see a major correction. I believe that we want to soften it to say, well, it's not going to be that bad. I mean, you know, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Main Street's going to come back. Yes, it is. But until it does, we're going to go through some tough times. We are going to feel the brunt of higher prices, of higher interest, which I believe the interest rates will go down actually because the market's falling. But you're going to feel your retirements go down. You're going to feel the fact that things may go up for a season because of the trade wars. Those things are happening, and they're going to continue to happen. Now, I don't blame Trump for that. I honestly don't. As a conservative, again, it's not trying to take advantage of the situation and tell him that he's doing a great job. What I'm saying is, no matter who was in charge, anytime someone wants to rehome America and bring things back to America, it's going to cost because we've been doing something so wrong for so long. If I wanted to get out of debt and I've got piles of debt, then I've got to stop that habit. If I want to lose weight, I've got to cut the good food out and start eating the broccoli again. It's challenging. And that's the kind of things that we're going to go through, the major challenges. Now, the scary thing is we talk about the reset of May 7th. We talk about the digital ID. We talk about the fact of other things like Bitcoin. We talk about crypto. We better start talking about just getting real sound money again and getting our economy back on track. Not the stock market. I'm not worried about the stock market. It'll come back. I'm talking about making sure we understand what it means to be independent. What did I say yesterday? Like Peter Schiff just said, we wanted lower prices, so then we let everybody else provide it for us. When we become the biggest consumer, what does that mean? That means we are the biggest dependent. My children are the biggest consumers when it comes to my home. Not because of any reason other than I love them and they can't work for themselves, so they become a consumer, not a contributor. Now, they go out and they help us and they do a little chores, but you're missing the point. They're not going out and bringing food into. They're not going out and being the breadwinner and working a 9 to 5. They're not going out and doing that because why? They're children. They consume because they're children. They do not contribute because they're children. One day when they get older, they'll do the same thing. They'll contribute and their family will be consumers. Without us contributing to the family, like income and making sure we have food on the table, the consumers, the children, would be up a creek without a paddle. Well, America has become one big baby to the world. Yes, we are the biggest baby, and yes, we make economies rise and fall because we become the biggest consumer. If we quit consuming, it hurts the economy. However, it also makes us one dependent big fat baby. And therefore, if we don't want to be the dependent fat baby anymore, it's going to hurt the world, which ultimately is going to hurt us, which ultimately is going to make some major things happen. And they're not going to be good right now. Now, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but you got to go through the tunnel first. I can look through and see the light, but there's a lot of darkness before you get to that light, isn't it? That's where we're at, and that's what we got to go through. The last thing I want to talk about, and another reason I believe we do need to rehouse and rehome. We talked about the pharmaceuticals only having a 2-week supply. We talked about, you know, if we don't have the things that we need, like what we saw in 2020, we had to still buy so much from overseas. Now, there's a new report that says that Chinese imports are now leveraged with cyber attacks. For more than a decade, cybersecurity experts across the government and private sectors have sounded the alarm that the information that we're getting from China, the products that we're getting from China, actually may have technology on it that could pose a risk to cause problems for America. The United States' long-standing dependency on Chinese devices has repeatedly exploited the fact that the state-backed effort of the Chinese ruling Communist Party could be undermining the national security of America. Because the pre-installed malware in consumer devices and sabotage operations are critical to infrastructure, now may have ways that China could hack into and get our information. While not every Chinese device poses a risk, the growing catalog of cyber attacks exploiting the Chinese hardware underscores the vigilance that America needs about providing it back at home and having safeguards in and not allowing China to give us everything that we're needing. Chinese malware pre-installed on U.S. government phones has happened and will continue to happen because guess what? Even though we complain about it, what did I say about the big fat baby? We still got to have the devices that is needed. We have to make sure that through this adversarial relationship, that if they're the ones providing us all our technology and all our pharmaceuticals and all the things that we need, that puts us in a very bad position. Now, the only leverage we have is because we are the big fat baby we control the flow of goods. So there's a balancing act that's got to happen with leverage. We have to keep buying the goods, but at a point where we're starting to rebuild what we have needed to be building here the whole time. Technology, semiconductors, making sure we rehouse our pharmaceuticals. Charge the tariffs and then incentivize the businesses to come back. Not just charge them tariffs or give them a lax. I would actually say if you're willing to build these things back at home, I'm willing to negotiate not only no tariffs, I'm willing to negotiate tax breaks. Because if you really want businesses to come back home, you have to incentivize them to come back home. And at this point, it's national security. It's civil unrest could take place, of course, without medicine and food. We don't realize how much we are dependent on the world. One thing this tariff situation should show us is that we're the big fat baby. And until we start understanding that we don't need to be just a consumer-driven world, and especially America, we need to be the one providing, contributing back to the homeland. Peter Schiff said it right. We're going to have to make a correction. And that correction is going to hurt. But yes, could it be for the best? Absolutely. But we're going to have to go through the valley way before we get to the mountaintop. And sadly, because of our politicians, and sadly because of our media, and sadly because Congress is scared to lose the vote, I truly don't know if they're going to do it and they're going to let Trump do it. And I honestly believe you're going to see a pullback and you're honestly going to see the fall of American way, the American dream of everything being back home. Because I don't believe people can get ready for it. I don't believe people are ready to do it. Think about the gym at your local city or town. There's 30 or 40,000 people in your town maybe, and there may be 4 or 5 gyms with a few hundred or maybe even 1,000 or so people in that gym. So you may say 25 to 30% of people are working out on a daily basis of that 100% of that population. What it shows is people know fast food is bad for you. People know that it's a health risk to be overweight. People know that it's important to work out and exercise. But the majority of people still does not work out and exercise and eat right, do they? It's the same situation. People know that we need to get out of debt. People know that we need to cut the spending. People know that America is very dependent on China. But are they willing to cut their habits and cut their spending and to, take a few little losses here and there to make it happen? Sadly, I don't think so, especially when it comes to our politicians. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. It's not about depressing to you. It's about seeing truth. And May 7th is not a good move by the Trump administration. Not only that, the reset that we're happening, we don't want it with more control and security, quote-unquote security for us and safety when it takes our freedoms away. That's what Colorado did. They want to control your safety and freedom. So therefore, if you want to be more safe, you've got to give us your rights of the Second Amendment. You see how that works? We can't allow that to take place. And then on the second part of this video, we can't allow everybody else to provide our goods for us, because what we realize is when we're not contributing, we're consuming. And when we're consuming and not contributing, we are dependent on someone else to provide it. We don't need to become the dependent anymore. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless.